Hello, back again. We're back on the JVC camcorder. At least you can get a bit of a better look at the cutter. Once again, this old thing, provided you can get some lighting up, does a pretty good close-up. Now this is where I was talking about they've used a wheel in the flute to clean up. You can see the run out from the cut-off wheel or grinding wheel, whatever they used. It's a crude effort, I suppose. If that's all you've got at home, that's what you use. But it leaves this surface here in a curve instead of a straight line. It'll take a little bit of work, but that's one job. Now I'll swing across to the next cutter. And there, that's picture perfect. You can see the big blowout in the side of the cutter. Piece chipped out, and that indicates to me just excessive feed pressure. It would be what you would expect with the chip 100. But now you can see how much I've got to take off. That's definitely not just worth a gullet and grind. That's got to be a cut off the cutter. I'm getting a little bit better at that now. Getting a bit more confident with that cut off wheel. They just amaze me at how good they are on high-speed steel. The only problem I have is each operation I've got to break the tool and cutter grinder down and change the attachments over. And that's not too bad if you've got 20 cutters to do the cut off with, but if it's only one, it encroaches into your time quite a bit. Okay, we'll swing around to another cutter. And back out just a bit. There, look at that, perfectly in focus. Okay, you can see that there's a curved shape. All of these teeth have an inner and outer radius, or a front and rear radius to gullet and the land area or flank area at the back, and that to me signifies it was done with a cold saw sharpening machine, not on a tool and cutter grinder. If you're a saw shop, that's well and good, but slitting saws are fairly different to cold saw blades. So we'll try and do that and see if we can repair it. Now, this is the worst worn of the slitting saw blades. Now back out again. There you are. You can just see a little shiny bit along the edge. So I would say there's about 2 thou to take off, or 3 thou, and it's back to a brilliantly sharp saw blade. Now these are locally made, as I said, by Capital Tools. I've been selling their equipment for a while. The price is fair. Matter of fact, the price is pretty bloody good on a lot of it. The tools I've found to be of very, very good quality. Some of the big brand product might be a touch better. None of it is worth 150% more in price, and this product is substantially better than most of the imported cheap Asian products. So fairly good price, fairly good product. To me, it's a bargain. I don't often plug somebody's cutter, but yeah, he gives good value for money. Twist drills seem to run reasonably well. I have had some delays in delivery. Poor fellow, he's like me trying to get staff. It's just mission impossible nowadays. Nobody wants to work. But that's the run of the high-speed steel cutters that we'll be touching up today. Bye for now. Well, here we are back again on the little Clarkson tool and cutter grinder. Wonderful little machine tool, but it does have some limitations. I think I've mentioned them before, but for those that are coming late, like a Phantom comic, the sub table pivots around this bolt here, so you can swing the whole table around, and that makes it a very universal machine. But there's no alignment pins. Surely to God, at 90 degrees and 90 degrees or 0, whatever, you would have an alignment pin to lock it in so that it goes in exactly the right position. And I think it's lost a lot of rigidity in that there's only one central bolt for this mounting flange, where I think there could be 2 or 3 extras to really give it a bit more rigidity, and it does feel occasionally like it's not rigid. With all machine tool operations, you listen with your ears to pick up vibration, but you also feel a bit through your fingers, and that tells you when things are about to go pear-shaped. And man, sometimes when you're using this, you can just feel the table vibrating and say, hey, it's not really as rigid as I would like to see it. Setting up the table for this particular operation. Once again, the table swivels. There's a little cylinder inside there that's graduated up to 45 degrees, nothing at 90. How the hell are you supposed to align it accurately? Well, you get out your machinist square, but this is a tool and cutter grinder, it should be graduated. So using the machinist square, I square the upper table to the main table, fairly reasonable operation, lock that up, and I'll call that square. Next I put a straight edge across the wheel, run the table across and then line of sight it, and I have the upper table parallel to the cut-off wheel, and that's pretty well good enough for this operation. However, it's not good enough for things like dovetail cutters and single angle cutters. You really need a more accurate way to set it up. I do have an engineer's protractor which is fairly accurate, but that'll bring you within half a degree, quarter of a degree, so there is no precise way of setting this. I do have a vernier protractor, but in this setup I don't think you're going to get fantastic accuracy. You can go off a tool standard and use a dial indicator. You might get it in reasonably close, but you won't get any better than what I'm doing at the moment, I don't feel. So I'll set the power up, ready to go, and hopefully we'll cut off the cutter. This is the cutter with the big chip taken out of it. Yes, we can line up reasonably well with the cut-off wheel. I'll take about 3 millimeters more than this needed, as there's a little bit broken out of the margin here. You have to go past that, otherwise the cutter will jam up in the hole and we'll have another broken cutter coming back, and that means not good value for the customer. Okay, we'll set up the power and then bring you back in when we're cutting it off. I'll show you a little bit of cutting off the cutter here. The audio won't be the best because the machine does generate a fair bit of noise. This is not the quickest way to do it. You can do it offhand with an angle grinder, which I have done before. And it's very, very fast with a 350mm cut-off machine, but this is the correct way to do it, although I'm not using the correct wheel. So I'll just show you a little bit of it and I won't bore you. I'll wind the fuse dowel in. And the blue shark cut-off wheel is very effective. So you see it goes through the high-speed steel through the brick. Close to the body of the cutter now. to stop this part of it. The handle of the workhead is touching up against the belt housing, so I'll have to move them a little bit closer. Okay, to get a bit more depth of cut, I moved the cutter out of the chuck about 6mm, and that allowed me to move the whole workhead to the right, and then the locking bolt for the rear housing on the workhead was no longer found on the belt guard. This screw here was touching on the belt guard and I couldn't get full rotation. So I should be able to cut that off. I don't know that you want to see the rest of the operation, it gets a bit boring. Next I'll bring you in when we're grinding the slitting cutters. After all that noise, there's the result. One cutter cleanly cut off and the front end cut off up there. It's quite a timely operation. You can't really fly into the cutter. As I said, I've cut them off with angle grinders and cut-off saws before. That's much faster, but this way it's nice and even, and when you gullet the cutter you've got less grinding on a tool cutter grinder. Anyway, I'll gullet them by freehand and bring you over to the TNC where we'll sharpen them. Let's hope we don't get too much vibration on this shot. It's very hard to maintain the camera not disappearing into pieces. I know it's causing that slow. I think that's tight. Okay. Feed in a couple of thou and away we go. Hope we don't drop the camera. One little bit more. Hope this is the last pass. One thing you want to notice is the cutting edge I'm grinding has now become a very straight edge. And that's when you can see that you're grinding right up to the edge. All the raw material is away. Okay, I'll have a quick look to see if that's done enough. Yep, I can swing the cutter around to do the other side now. And hopefully not knock the customer camera arse over here. Okay, now we're around to the opposite face. Righto. In deference to Shaper Andy, let's go for it. He's still one of the greatest characters I've seen on YouTube. Just go a fraction further in. Make sure I get all of the facet. Righto. Lock the stop up. Once you've made contact like that, once you've touched off, I go around each of the teeth without feeding in because quite often the teeth aren't very even. The last cutter I found one that was about 1.5 mil below the others. I don't know what fooled around that, but there was no way knowing it was getting an even cut. And even with these it looks like there are a few thou different. Okay, so I'll feed in a little bit. First time we're able to get this sort of a camera angle. Now I can just see it's starting to clean up the damaged area on the teeth. You may not be able to see it in focus, but this cutting tooth has just got a shiny bit out to the left towards the periphery, and as I grind it that will disappear. One more pass required. Now to all the would-be naysayers that say the audio is bloody awful and you should do better camera work, well, this is the best I can do with the very primitive equipment I have. So if you don't like it, go to another channel. It's just the best I can do. Now this is cleaning up a lot of that shiny bit. Just a touch left to do. One more pass. That one cleaned up very nicely. Okay, back to the start. Another tooth out. Lovely Calamar. One more pass and that'll be it. Perfect. Or as the South Africans would say, brilliant. Now I'll switch all the noise off and let's see how I did roll with the car. Now behind the scenes I'm just undoing the collet clamp nut. Hope you can't see what a pig the cutter grinder is. That's a pretty damn good cutter. This high performance grinding wheel is really earning its money. Okay, bye for now. If you're new to the show, please like and subscribe. Bye guys. Hello everyone, back again. This time we're onto the slitting saws, and I've had a few queries about explaining the differential centre height method for grinding clearance cutters or clearance behind cutting teeth. So I'll show you the setup again. First of all, the Clarkson book. There's the chart. If you can read it on the bottom line, the right hand diameter column is a 4-inch grinding wheel with a 6-inch cutter. 3/16 difference in centre height gives you the clearance that you want. So I'll get that out of the way. It's all done in a very old-fashioned physical way. And the reason I use a small gauge like this is there's no room for a big surface gauge. First I set that to centre height, if I haven't put it down. Centre height on the arbor, then I set the tooth to be ground to centre height, and I've got to set the shaft for the grinding wheel 3/16 lower. So I set a ruler up. I couldn't read the millimetres for 5 because they're in half segments, so I put 3/16 up. So the wheel is below the cutter and the arc of the wheel will grind the clearance there. Now I've done that before with a 6-inch wheel and dropped the shaft 8mm, and visually the profile looks like it matches the wheel fairly well, so I'd say I've got that right. Watch out for this pointy beggar, it'll give you a bit of a stab in the finger if you're not careful. I found that out again today, bit repetitive. Okay, I've got my nice old-fashioned, quite sturdy indexing item up there with a spring-loaded finger. And it's jammed the shaft up. Lucky I found that out. Okay, we'll come back in a few minutes. I've just got to relax things and move the pivot around a bit. That's a little bit better. Now it's free. When I tighten down the base of the index, we'll push the two shafts together and jammed it up. This is quite a good, robust indexer. Moves reasonably freely with the spring-loaded arm. You can just bring it back so that the one you want to grind is on centre. Okay, I'll get some noise going. I'll make a run to make sure I haven't made a mistake. And I'll bring you in and you can see me doing one circuit. I'll bring you back again. I've just fed in one thou. The blade's nearly finished. It's come up quite round and going well. So I'll just finish this circle and I think the blade will be done and we'll swap over to the next one. Reasonably easy work, and the piece is coming out wonderful. Now I've gone from a 150mm down to a 100mm wheel, and that's a much more comfortable operation. Lifting up to where I can see the first piece of the ground. I'll just make sure there's sufficient material underneath the sharpening. It's just there, cleaned up all the teeth. It's a slow operation manually, but you know, you can do half an hour after setup time. These last year were the ones that weren't cleaning up very well last time. That's good, it looks like they're cleaning up now. Yeah. So not too hard to run around. I'm holding the nut tight here so that the saw can't come loose on the arbor and rotating it from the rear. Feed in is by the handle down below, which I think you can just see on the side of the photo there. Poor old grinder's starting to turn into a pig, but it is a working grinder. Now also, as well as using a smaller diameter wheel, it's dressed away so there's only a very small amount of the wheel in contact. And I think that's making it grind a hell of a lot freer. It's not fighting me, it's just such an easy operation now. So I'll swap over to another saw and away I go, but I will back off and then bring the new saw in because they could all be just a few thou different in diameter there. So hopefully if I can spin through these, I'll try a little bit on the dovetail cutter. But you might now start to understand my reluctance to keep breaking down the cutters. This is good because I can put this setup on and do 7 slitting saws, but if I'm just doing one cutter, like cutting off the cutter and then break it down and load it up again, you have to charge the customer 15 or 20 minutes in setup time just to do a $20 or $30 job if it's a big saw. So it's a bit hard to charge them for that. Anyway, all for now. I may have to make this a separate video as it's starting to get a little bit long. Bye. G'day there guys, the old bloke back again. I think I finally managed to figure out grinding this dovetail cutter, although it's been a little bit of a pain. I'm going to have to grind it with the grinding wheel going in the wrong direction because the Clarkson's not reversible. But first up, I'm setting the main table in the same plane as the grinding wheel. So I put a parallel in, and the movement on the dial indicator is next to nothing. Sorry if you can't see it, but it's a precarious setup. And the indicator is marked off in hundredths of a millimetre, so I'm quite satisfied with how that is. Now I'll set up the top table at 45 degrees for the main table, and I don't have any, I've got a vernier protractor, but you just couldn't fit it in and use it properly, so I've got an engineer's protractor